I was irritated about that with the Star Wars movies. I really wanted Luke and Leia to end up together, and like it was like normally I don't like when the guy gets the girl, but that was a movie where I felt like he should have gotten the girl, and he never did. I didn't understand why Luke and Leia didn't end up together.
Wait, are you serious?
Well, yeah, it's like it just seems like it was obvious from the beginning that, like, you know, he was the guy, she was the girl. Like, they should have ended up together. It was like, I mean, I guess maybe it was too telegraphed. I'm probably being a hypocrite because I'm probably like, I would complain in every other situation about the about it being too obvious. So, but yeah, they were perfect for each other, though. I think they made a cute couple.
Are you being serious right now?
Yeah, why? What's up?
Did you not see episode 3?
Episode 3.
Or like in the original, like the remake trilogy, Revenge of the Sith. Not the remake, but like the second trilogy, which happened before the first one. Yeah, I don't know why the fuck they released the shit
the prequel trilogy. No, I don't know. I don't know if I saw it. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure I did. Yeah.
Like, you know, the end, it's you know they're related, right?
Well, yeah, but it's like, doesn't really matter, right? It's in space.
But yeah, space incest is totally different.
Yeah. Oh, speaking of, when are we going to have the incest episode? I'm ready for that.
I thought that was a joke.
That was not a joke. I'm ready to discuss it. Okay. But no, all right. I did the cold open thing again. We've been live for the past like 30 some seconds talking about space incest.
I figured.
Good. Let me you want me to play the opening music? You want me to actually start the episode?
It works this time.
Oh god. All right, here goes nothing. Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of the Metacast podcast. That's the podcast that improves itself, improves ourselves, and improves the self in general. My name is Ty. I'm going to be your host. And today I'm joined by my insert adjective here co-host Distance. Fuck, I messed up. I just copied the notes from last week because it's the same topic, and I completely forgot to look up a new adjective for you.
Wait, you put a new adjective in your notes?
I usually do. Yeah, every week I go to
I thought that was off the cuff every time.
No, I go to thesaurus.com and I find a new adjective and just slap it in there. But yeah, so as I just mentioned, today we are picking up from last week's episode. This will be part 2 of Highway to the Comfort Zone. I don't remember exactly where we left off. Fuck.
I don't know either.
We pulled up the episode and listened to the beginning of it. It would have made more sense to listen to like the end a little bit. But yeah, we were kind of
listen to the end.
Well, what did you have on your notes for today that you said you took a few notes and you had like some headings that you wanted to talk about today. What do you have there?
One of them was actually we could go on to a I just realized I look really funny when I cough into my arm on camera. Yeah.
I'll have to pay attention to that.
It's bad, please don't. So I don't know if it's like the lens, but it makes my arm look super long. So one of the things, because you and I actually talked about sort of like how ridiculous the idea of this specific concept is yesterday, that people tend to be uncomfortable with individuals of different races.
Yeah.
And, you know, just like because the idea of the comfort zone spreads to pretty much every part of anyone's life, that, you know, not only did, you know, I think we come to the conclusion that it was really nothing to be like worried about or anything to be uncomfortable with. But you know, I think you had some thoughts on the idea of like the whole race thing.
Yeah, I mean,
so I'm not gonna steal your thunder here.
Well, I don't know if that's the best for this show or if we should like delve into that on a topic more about that. But yeah, I mean, what I was talking about was that to me that whole idea seems so stupid. To find discomfort in the company of others that aren't exactly the same as you, I guess, like, because to me, like with a lot of the things with race, it's not like what's the best term to use? The word I want to go to is it's not like a real thing, quote unquote. There are no hard lines in race. It is kind of something that we've determined where to draw these arbitrary lines. And it's like, all it really is noticing that, hey, there's something different about this person than myself, and focusing on that difference, which I think a lot of times it boils down to skin color. I think that's really
it's completely superficial.
Exactly. Yeah. Like, I mean, like we pointed out, I mean, of course, okay, so when people evolve in different climates, there are going to be different physiological differences, including skin color and things like that. But it's like, as far as like actually trying to look at the difference between two people of two quote unquote different races, and like, okay, what are the actual physiological differences here? What do they matter? There's not really a lot of hard evidence or like strict things to go on. It's kind of a lot of arbitrary things you would throw out.
Yep. And I think that the reason why I asked you to elaborate on it in that fashion, is because I think it's one of those things like where if you are uncomfortable with like hanging out with people whose physical appearance is somewhat different than yours, and not necessarily even race, like it could be anything. But in this particular case, like that thing is, I think that if you are willing to get out of your comfort zone of like people who may have like the same physical appearance as you, that we refer to as race typically, that you'll actually find that a lot of it really is not that different.
Yes.
That if you just stop being uncomfortable with something so superficial, that you'll figure out yourself that it's superficial.
Well, I think it goes a lot further than really just race. It's like anytime someone looks different than you. Like, I feel like it was kind of similar. The story you were telling me, I forget where you ran into the guy. But you were talking to him about metal music, and it was like, just based on the way he was dressed and how he came off, you were like surprised that the person was even into metal. You know, it's like we do that a lot, where like, not that it's, wrong to have that impression or anything, but it's like we kind of like judge people based on a certain appearance or a certain feeling we get from them. And sometimes, more often than not, that can surprise you if you let it. And I think that same thing, it's like, it's more serious when it comes to differences like race or things like that. But it's like, I think that can happen with anything, where your first impression of someone, you may get an idea of, what they're into, how they are, basically who this person is, before you actually let yourself learn anything about that actual person.
So I think that, it follows that it's beneficial to step out of your comfort zone in regard to people's appearances, that sometimes you can find something out about them that's very interesting. Like I remember when I was like, I think I was like maybe 16 or 17. It was like, back in the metalcore days, I was wearing like a black tight band shirt and some girl pants, and I had my nails were painted black.
Okay.
And there's this old guy on this plane that was like, so I was a teenager, so he was like, hey, your nails. I'm like, yeah. What's that supposed to mean? I'm like, that I like to paint my nails black? And like, I was just like, well, I gave him like this real like snooty kind of look, and he's like, hey, you want to see something? I'm like, oh my God.
And he pulled his dick out.
I'm a teenager. This man's a pedo.
Yep.
I was really freaked out, but he was wearing like a suit. And he pulls up the pants leg of his suit, and has a whole like super bright tattoo from his ankle all the way up to like above his knee.
Okay.
And I was like, whoa.
He pulled up a lot of that pant leg. Damn. What was going on?
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of ink there too. But it was just one of those things that where I think he was trying to sort of teach me the lesson that like, hey, I know you think that like I'm some like, boring old guy, but check this out. I bet you didn't expect that. And like, don't talk to me like that, boy. I've lived longer than you have, whatever. But that was just another one of those instances where like you judge somebody based on appearance, and you find out that it's, completely not what you anticipated. But man, like,
I think that's funny too, because his whole question at that time would have rubbed me the wrong way, and I would have been like, it doesn't mean anything. It means I paint my. But now it's like, now looking back, it's like, well, no, it actually does mean something. It means that I wanted to do something to set myself apart, basically. You know what I mean? Like there was a meaning to it, right? Like at that time, like you probably didn't fully admit it or didn't fully recognize it, but now it's like, no, there was a meaning. Like he was kind of spot on.
Yeah. It means I want to look different, like I want to stand out in some fashion, and I fucking love attention. I mean, that's really what it came down to, is that, but he could have figured that out anyway. Like he didn't even need to ask me, like being a grown up. But it's like I had someone at work ask me like, "Hey, why is your nose pierced?" I was like, "Because I'm gay." They're like, "Huh?" It's like, well, that's what you were getting at, wasn't it?
It's the new gay thing. Yeah, we all do that.
I was like,
we meet up together and we get our nose pierced together.
Yeah, it's like that's the thing. That's what we do. Yeah. But then I was like, no, it means that I like to pay people to inflict a puncture wound on my nose and then put a piece of jewelry through it.
Yeah, but yeah,
like that's what that means. Also, same shit.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
To set myself apart and be different.
Well, that one, it's like
I'll grow up someday.
Both of them, I mean, kind of like don't have to be set myself apart, but boil down to like maybe I like the way it looks. It's like aesthetically, I like it, and that's like the same reason why you chose that shirt, right?
Yeah, and I'll ask people that too. Like, why are you wearing that shirt?
Yeah,
because I like it. Like, there you go.
Yeah, and that's enough of a reason. Like, I feel like a lot of times we do that, where we feel like we need to put a bigger reason behind something than what is really there. And sometimes that small reason is good enough, even though maybe we don't feel like it is. Like, I don't know. I've realized that. Like, to me, not trying to get us like too far off topic, but that happens to me a lot with like the gun control debate, where it's like a lot of people feel like if they're pro the Second Amendment, they feel like they need to justify it with something more than just I like guns. And that really, like, that reason is cool enough. It's like we live in a free society. Like, just liking it is enough. You don't have to act like it's for home security and things like that. When it's like, well, it's really not. Or like you don't have to act like it's gonna like what is the other thing that people use a lot to like the Second Amendment was written to prevent government tyranny. It's like, well, yeah, it was, but that was at a time when they didn't have F-22s. And like as of right now, you're not going to stand up against the U.S. government with your assault rifle. I wouldn't have.
Yeah, they were. Now that they have like gunships and
Yeah, you're a little outclassed on that battlefield. So
really small arms don't really do much to like an Abrams tank.
Exactly. Yeah.
Tink, 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 tink. That's pretty much all that happens there.
But okay. But I feel like we do that a lot with different reasons. We try to like justify it with something bigger than we feel like it really is, and sometimes we just need to be honest, and that's enough.
Well, here's a question for you, since it actually made me think about it. So, comfort zone, and we're also talking about guns. So, if you were walking into the grocery store and you saw somebody walk out of the grocery store with a pistol tucked into their pants that was exposed, like at the back, like purposely exposed, like as in like their shirt was tucked behind it and it was probably in like a waistband holster.
Yeah.
Like, would that make you uncomfortable?
And so open carry like that used to a long time ago. I think the more that I've lived in the South and the more I've seen it, the less it makes me uncomfortable, and the more I've just kind of been acclimated to it. I think it is more often than not, I think it is uncalled for in a lot of situations, but it doesn't make me uncomfortable anymore. It's like, it's like, I definitely understand, if you're like, depending on where you're going, there are places where it is more, I don't want to say necessary, but it is more likely to be needed than others. But like a lot of times I feel like people just do that because it feels like part of their outfit, right? Like it's more just like they feel complete when they have it on. Like,
yeah, I mean, some people I think are because for me, like, well, I mean, not to get off the subject too much, but to me, that's always a bad idea. It's like open carrying is just not a good idea in any situation. I understand like that some people like have reasons that aren't the best in the world for it, but when I saw because this was like the other day, I was walking in the grocery store, I saw a gentleman walk out with a pistol kind of tucked in his waistband, and like, I realized that at the moment I didn't really think anything of it. I was like, get a shopping cart, and I was like, wait, that guy had a gun sticking out of his waistband. Like, that didn't really faze me. Like, should I be uncomfortable with that? Like, are there people that are uncomfortable with that?
I'm sure there are. Yeah.
Because for me, a lot of the time, like when I see people doing that, it seems like almost like a tough guy thing, but it could be any number of things. It just might be part of the outfit.
Well, and there can be times where it's like actually, I don't want to, like, again, necessary doesn't feel like the right word, but it's like did you see that church shooting that happened just a few days ago in Texas?
I don't watch the news, and that's exactly why.
Yeah, I mean, because honestly, like, I mean, the video came out and everything too, and like in the first 2 seconds of the video, you see 2 people get shot at basically point blank range with a shotgun. There was a person in the back of the church that stands up with a shotgun. He shoots 2 people, but again, like, people will point out in the comment section of the video, it's like this dude was at a church service in Texas. What are the chances are you think you're the only person with a gun in that room? Not very high. Like within I mean he got off those first 2 shots, but after that there was at least like 5 other grandpas pulling their guns out and he instantly got shot. And it's like,
Texas?
I mean, yeah, exactly. Yeah, you're in a Christian church service in Texas. There are a lot of guns in that
Baptist church? Because at a Baptist church the probability goes up immensely that people are armed.
I'm not sure what denomination it was, but
I'm making a joke, but
but no, I mean, well, you're making a joke because it's true though. But like,
yeah, I don't know for sure that but it's like you are in Texas.
Exactly.
So it's like Texas has sort of a sort of a stereotype. Not a good idea.
They did that like years ago. They had a Draw Muhammad contest in Texas. And it was because like they did it as a bait because they knew people were going to show up pissed at it. And it was like, well, and everyone's going to be holding at this. So it's like, if you want to create a trap, there it is. Like, but yeah, but anyways, like I was pointing to though, like there are situations, I guess, where actually having a gun on you in public would be a life-saving decision like that.
But it's like, it's the fact that it's open, I think, is the thing that I think is
True,
not really necessary. Like, I don't think it's necessary for people to see that it's there.
Well, depending on the state, though, don't you sometimes have to do an open carry before you can get your concealed? Like, I think North Carolina works that way, where you actually you have to. Do you not have to?
No.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah, you can open carry without a permit to carry a firearm. So to conceal carry, you have to pass they give you like this exam, I think, for like gun safety, and then you go out onto the range and qualify with a weapon.
That's what
you're allowed to like carry it like and conceal it. But if you want to open carry, you don't have to actually have a permit for that. You have to have a permit to own the weapon, but you don't have to you have to have a permit to carry it if it's open. That's
what it is. If someone buys a weapon, the waiting period for like just the weapon is way shorter than the waiting period for the concealed permit and plus the classes and everything. So more often than not, when someone buys their first weapon, they're open carrying it for the first little bit until they get their concealed permit. Yeah. That's why I was thinking about it like that. That's right.
But for me, like, I just wouldn't do that. Like, I don't think open carrying is a good idea. I think it's a terrible idea for a lot of reasons. But I mean, that's just another one of those things, because it made me think back to the fact that I talk about guns like I'm comfortable with them because I am now, but I wasn't for a long time. And I was just thinking, like, many years ago, the old me would have had like a different idea of that, and it might have actually been shocking. And I guess usually if I see someone open carrying, I just roll my eyes.
How do you feel about the idea of open carrying simply to exercise the right, though?
I think that's stupid. It's ridiculous. The people that do it, or they call themselves activists, they're just assholes.
Yeah.
So the cop shows up and asks them for identification, and they throw all the shit in their face, like, I don't have to give you my ID. I have a right to carry this weapon. And they're just basically being dickheads. Like, it's just an excuse to be an asshole to cops and to do it on camera.
Exactly. I think it's kind of like that too. It's like the adult version of the like, I'm not touching you game from like being a kid, where it's like you're just trying to push the line as far as you can.
Yeah. Because like it's like if you're open carrying with a pistol, people usually won't call the cops. But the people that we're talking about that call themselves activists, like, they're walking around downtown wherever with an AR-15 on their back.
Yeah.
Like, dude, like, regardless of if you're like legally allowed to do that, it's abnormal behavior.
Exactly. Like, and that's what I think people need to recognize.
People carry pistols, and that's a very common thing. And that doesn't freak me out. Like, I saw a guy in Best Buy with a fucking holster. He was just like, like, oh man, I love this new iPhone. It's like, nice gat, buddy. I mean, I thought that was a little silly myself, but it's like an AR-15 on your back is like, that's abnormal behavior. Someone's going to call the cops. So like, it's like, but I agree with you. It's just like, and to me, like, being someone that like uses firearms and doesn't necessarily have a problem with them, that I just think it makes everybody that owns a firearm look like an asshole when you do that. Like, it's not cool. Like, it's not, it just, because people that don't understand or don't know or aren't part of the community will get an idea that they But then that's another thing with like, if you're uncomfortable with that sort of thing, maybe experience it a little bit, and then you can dispel all the stereotypes you may have.
Well, that brings us to a good question though. Is so there are times when it's normal to be uncomfortable with something, right? Like, I mean, like we pointed out, the when it's abnormal behavior, you go into a store and the person in line in front of you has an AR-15 slung over their shoulder. Is that, if you're behind them in line and that makes you uncomfortable, is that something that should be worked on, or is that normal to be uncomfortable in that situation because the person's behavior is abnormal?
I mean, in that situation, I would say that it's pretty justified to be uncomfortable with it. And that's not like a situation where experiencing something is going to change anything. I mean, that's always going to be an uncomfortable moment, even if you're aware of firearms. But if you're someone that's familiar with those and that occurs, then you'll understand that not everybody that carries, everybody that owns a gun is going to take their AR-15 over their shoulder, like to a grocery store.
Yeah.
That's kind of where I was getting to, like experiencing it and getting out of your comfort zone. But that's just having some knowledge about it. But I mean, I think that it's completely normal to be uncomfortable with that kind of thing, because it's a situation in which, you know, you wouldn't typically experience that. And that's a non-beneficial getting out of your comfort zone.
Exactly. That's what I was going to get to too, is I guess it feels like that maybe depending on where you are, it would probably be so infrequent that there's not really much of a benefit for it to become part of your comfort zone, nor will it. If something only happens to you once every few years, it's not really going to become comfortable. It's always going to be so rare that, you know, part of it is going to be like, oh, well, this is a little foreign. But.
Yeah, like, you know, when your grandma wants to talk about politics at Thanksgiving dinner.
Oh God, did that happen to you this year?
Only happens once a year. Well, no, my grandmother's dead.
Oh, okay.
But my mom is someone's grandmother, and she just loves talking about politics.
Oh God.
I'm like, I don't know anything about this. Can we stop?
You need to like find the most obscure politician and just act like you're really into them.
It's a good idea.
Yeah, just like find some weird third-party candidate. When people start arguing about like Trump versus Biden or whatever it's going to be, you just be like, no, Jill Stein is an excellent candidate and she's going to bring me, and just like start going off on your rant. I think that would be great. That's a way to like diffuse it in a pretty harmless way, maybe. I guess.
I'll tell you what, man, the Republicans need to nominate Susan Collins.
Is that your pick? Is it going to be Susan Collins?
Susan Collins needs to be nominated.
That's actually holy shit.
A Republican senator from Maine.
No, that's genius, because you irritate the right side by not being on with Trump, but then you also irritate the left by being behind a Republican. It's a win-win. No matter like who's listening, you're going to irritate them. That's brilliant.
I control the whole world. Yeah, Susan Collins has been in the Senate since 1997.
Yeah, there's a problem with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, when are we going to have our political episode about how Congress needs term limits? And how we need to get money out of politics? I'm just kidding. We're not going to do a political episode.
Is that going to improve the podcast, ourselves, or the self in general?
It'll improve. I could make an argument that being as politically aware as possible improves yourself, but I don't actually believe that, so I couldn't really stand behind that argument. So fuck.
Yeah, it's like I can make an argument for it, but I don't really do it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I am a believer that like I do think that at this point in time, it is probably too much effort for the average American to stay informed enough to vote. Like I don't even know if I should have a vote. Like I don't feel like I have the time to learn enough about the issues to be informed enough. And it's like I realize 90% of people out there are in the same boat as me. And it's like we're all just voting blindly. We're all kind of idiots. Like we're all pretty much one or two issue voters. And
it's like look some stuff up the night before. Find out some people's names, give yourself a crash course in, you know, their views or their goals, and then that's pretty much that.
Yep.
But then also that brings me to another thought
Mhm.
that a lot of us have like, well, I don't necessarily know if they're politics, but a lot of us have like social issues that we view as being politics,
Yeah.
that we like want to talk about and things like that. And I think that it's good to have conversations with people whose views you're uncomfortable with.
A lot of times having those conversations are pretty uncomfortable. Those
Yeah,
are
they're, for some people, for many people, they're one of the most uncomfortable things.
well,
But a
they're
lot of it
usually the
also,
most divisive topics, right? Like they're going to be the most controversial
yeah, I mean,
topics you could talk
I
about,
mean,
probably.
they can be, but the reason why is because most people. So I mean, a lot of this actually, a lot of the ideas of what people are comfortable with and uncomfortable with, like you can actually, um, I think there's ways you can increase your comfort with something by removing that thing from your personal identity. So
Increase your
like if you
comfort with
think
a
of
thing.
yourself as like, I don't like trying new foods. I never
Mhm.
like new foods and I won't try those things. Or if because that's just not me. Or like, I really I don't I don't I don't dance. I don't do it. Like that's not me. Like it's not part of who I am. Like dancing is not my thing. So then like you give yourself this reason to not go do it because you make that part of your identity. And it's the
Mhm.
same thing with, I think, like views. Like if you remove your identity from the view that you have, then you can make the conversation immensely more beneficial for you and the other person involved.
Yeah, kind of
But
separating your geez, I'm starting to say anxiety. I don't know why my brain's doing that. Separating your existence from the identity of like this topic, right? Like so you don't have an emotional attachment to it any longer. But
yeah, you just kind of like, this is a viewpoint that I possess and like I can talk about it. But the other thing is that in conversations like that, sometimes people are gonna just be jerks. Like they're
yeah,
just gonna yell at you and tell you how wrong you are. And I think there's a point there where if you are already comfortable with conflict, then you can find a way to keep your cool and maybe steer the conversation towards something that's going to be beneficial for you or the other person. Or you can just get to
mhm.
the point where you recognize that you can't reason with this individual, and that's pretty much that.
Yeah, and unfortunately, there are going to be conversations like that. It's
Yep.
there will be times where you'll feel that the conversation will be that way, and you may be wrong. And that I mean, sometimes you'll get the feeling from someone that they're so close-minded or so they've made up their mind so much that they're unreachable, and you may be wrong, but there are sometimes you may be right, and that's. I wonder if we should do an episode about that. Just realizing like when a conversation's not worth your time, I guess, or realizing like, and that's kind of a really douchey way of saying that, but like, I feel like
Well,
that
I
is a
mean,
beneficial
it's
skill.
I don't think it's douchey.
Okay, good.
Because douches are honest. Like, damn those douches and their honesty.
Yeah,
Fucking honest douchebags. Being forthcoming about things that they feel.
but it's I feel like that the perfect example of that. Did you ever watch any of the, I think it was a multi-part debate. I know there was at least one like 2-hour segment, but it was between Bill Nye and Kent Hovind about like
Yeah.
creationism versus evolution or what. Yeah. Like
that shit was hilarious.
it is, because it's like that entire debate can be summed down to, there was one audience question that was asked to both of the people. And the question was like, what could the other person say that would change your mind at this point? And it's like Bill Nye's answer was like literally any one piece of evidence. It's like, if you show me a fossil that's in the wrong layer of rock, we have to read it, look at our timeline, look at how things happen. We like literally one piece of evidence is going to make me reconsider, because my opinion comes from evidence. And the other person's answer was, nothing could change my mind. I've got the truth in this book right here, and I know it's true. It's like, well, at that point there is no debate. Like that is a conversation that is not worth happening. One person is not interested in finding the truth. They came there with their mind made up, and there's nothing that is ever going to come from that. Like, yeah.
There's well, Ken Ham actually appeared on Religulous. I don't know if you saw that movie.
Yeah, dude, I love Bill Maher. Yeah.
He had that weird museum. That was strange.
Oh yeah, I forgot all about that place.
Yeah, actually, they he was interviewed in the office there, and he seemed very like upset about Bill Maher's questions. And to be fair, Bill Maher was the producers of that film did not represent religious people very well. They just took
Yeah.
like the most ridiculous, dumbest people they could, and honestly, I thought it was kind of unfair. But
Yeah, it was.
but it was funny, and I think that was the point. I laughed.
Yeah. Well, I mean, but it was like, it was comedic propaganda at the same time, right? Like, there was more of a point than just to be funny. They were also making a point, but which was kind of unfair, the way that, I don't think that their idea wasn't to be as unbiased as possible. They wanted to show their side of the story, and that's fine.
Yeah, I think if Bill Nye wanted to have a really interesting debate, one that would make him very uncomfortable, there's a theologian / apologist named I think it's William Lane Craig.
I don't know if
William Lane Craig is like the Richard Dawkins of Christian apologetics.
Huh. Okay.
He's very like, he can be articulately barbed because he's super smart.
I have to listen to
some of his
stuff.
arguments. Some of his arguments are a bit like kind of silly, but some of them are actually very like baffling to me. Like, I'm like, wow, this guy's really smart.
Oh yeah.
That would be a fun thing to watch, where they could actually get somewhere that would be somewhat interesting. But it's like, yeah, but I think that we have to allow ourselves the opportunity to be in a situation that we might not be comfortable with, to determine if the conversation's a waste of time or not.
Yeah.
And if we don't get to that point, if we don't step outside a little bit, then we'll never really be able to determine that this conversation's not going to go anywhere, or it will go somewhere. And I think that the moment that if we're having a conversation about ideas and you call me a name, like, I'm like, okay, this is it. Like, that's that.
Yeah.
Like, we can't go anywhere because like you don't have ideas to stand on, and you don't have an argument to give. So like, you need to call me names instead, and that doesn't really work. It's not because I take it personally, but because it's just not good philosophy.
Yeah, exactly.
It's frowned upon. There's even a name for it, ad hominem. Like, you just don't do that. So yeah. But there is some requirement that you have to step outside of like what's okay for you as far as like your comfort level goes, to determine if you can have a beneficial conversation. And that kind of I think this naturally kind of leads to the point of I did some research today because I realized I wasn't exactly familiar with firsthand what a safe space like on a university campus actually was, and like what it consisted of. And it seems that there's actually very broad definitions of what that is.
That's what I was about to say. I don't know if there's like a specific definition, or if it's just kind of
there's different types.
Okay.
Some of them are like almost like a spa or like a relaxation area.
That's kind of cool.
Where there's like chill music playing and like coloring books.
See, I didn't.
And like snacks.
I thought it was more of like an idea. I didn't know it was an actual space. I thought it was the idea of like, this campus is a safe space, not that there is like a safe space on campus. That's interesting. Okay.
There's certain areas like that. Like, so I think that people try to say, like, but I don't. Well, I guess we can get to that in a minute. But like, the idea that you can be surrounded with a group of people who like you share some kind of background with, or some kind of opinion or special interest, where you can get together and feel comfortable with like talking to each other and voicing your opinions on things. So it's not, but I think that some people might say that like this campus is a safe space, but you can't regulate an entire university campus.
Exactly. Yeah.
So like, if that's a statement that academic establishments use, I don't know if it's accurate, but the idea that I kind of had was that like, I don't know if that's necessarily good. Like, I think, going back to the stress episode, I think it's cool to have like an area that you call a safe space, which is actually a area of a campus or a room or something where there's places for people to just chill out and de-stress, not to worry about anything. That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
I think that's really cool. I think that's great. That you can go and like, chill out, do some nice like meditative, non-stressful stuff that has nothing to do with your schoolwork or your parents or your job or whatever, and just chill out. That's awesome. But I think that when we get to the point where we don't allow ourselves to be uncomfortable with other people's ideas, like we can't really learn anything.
Yeah, there's definitely a problem with that in the US in the past few years.
Yeah, but then that's also like that's like not that's not specifically about the idea of safe spaces. Like, not all of them are necessarily like that, where it's essentially going to be an echo chamber. But And I think that, well, you know, I think in the last podcast about the comfort zone thing, I told you about like how I was a very, very left, very like bleeding heart, like liberal, like way out there. And I decided, you know, maybe I'll listen to what some of these like Republicans or conservatives or whatever have to say. Like maybe I'll just listen to it. Maybe I'll have a conversation. Maybe instead of like not wanting to talk to them and like getting all enraged at their ideas, that maybe I'll just like be uncomfortable with this and like just listen, like even if it bothers me, like to listen, because I don't think I have a right to be comfortable.
Yeah, I don't think so. It's a luxury, not a right. I would agree with that.
Yeah.
But it is like, I mean, like we talked about in the last episode, though, I feel like it is a luxury that modern life, modern times has afforded us in a lot of ways. And I think that we have become over comfortable, but there is a benefit to the comfort that a lot of things have afforded us. And that's where it's tough to draw that line between, you know, when are you too comfortable? Because like I don't think we want, like, you know, like we're not advocating basically living like a monastic life, right? And like becoming a monk and like, you know, giving away all sense of worldly comfort. But
wait, we're not.
Oh well, I'm not. Maybe.
I'm just kidding. I mean, we'd be hypocrites.
Yeah. But there is like there is some value to some comfort. You know, like knowing that, you know, just not wanting to make your life as miserable as possible and having some sense of comfort, I think there's a huge benefit to. But living your entire life in comfort and never challenging yourself and never, you know, I think that the human mind is a lot like the human body, and the same way like skin calluses. You know, whenever you work, you go through some tough time, you know, the skin goes through tough time, it like grows back stronger than it was before. I think the mind does the exact same thing. And like being constantly comfortable in your mind is only going to lead to soft skin, basically. You're going to have a soft mind. But
yeah, agreed. Yeah, because if you don't challenge yourself to determine which of your beliefs are true or which ones make the most sense, if you can never actually ask questions about the things that you believe, and if you are never around people that force you to ask those questions, and I mean, you'll be soft. Or if you just never learn anything new because you're not okay with it, or it, like, you know, I almost sometimes feel like I find doing something new or learning something new doesn't really make me uncomfortable. I think I just find it exhilarating. Like even when I suck at it.
See, I think the only time that I feel uncomfortable doing something new I suck at is if it is like in front of others. You know what I mean? Like if I picture myself trying something new and I'm like alone in my room and I suck at it, I'm completely fine with that. But if I'm like in a group of people where we're all trying it in front of each other and then I have to like, I think I'm more uncomfortable. And it's because that constant thing in my brain of like caring what others think. I need to shake that. It's completely pointless, right?
Yeah. I mean, well, and I'm not going to say that, like, I'm not, excuse me. I'm not going to say that I'm not going to say that I don't find it uncomfortable for other people to see me fuck something up. But there's a moment where I also have to think that those people are no better than me. And at some point they started to, and when they started, they sucked just as bad. And if they are unable to recognize that, then I can't think of a nice way to say fuck them. So I'll just say it. Fuck them. I was trying to be like real eloquent, but I was like, nah.
Yeah.
No, you gotta. It's, you know,
some things are best. Yes, some things are best said in the most uneloquent way sometimes.
Yeah. So like that's kind of how I feel, because it's also like I really don't care, because like, you know, I'm not saying like that whole like, oh, zero fucks given, bro, zero fucks, like that's not, you know, like people that say that they don't care what other people think is an excuse to be an asshole is stupid.
Yeah,
but
I agree.
There's times like where you just need to. It's like that whole boundaries thing, like it's you know, putting your identity into things. So I think that maybe that's one of the reasons why, because when somebody teaches me something new and I'm very bad at it, like I expect that if that person is a good teacher, then they've done this before and they know what teaching someone that sucks at it, like what it's like, and they have experience with it. And anybody else that may be around, like if it's a class or something, like they all started somewhere. And if they don't understand that, then well, who cares? You know, like they're not the kind of person that whose opinion really needs to matter to me. And I'm not saying that that shit doesn't make me nervous. It does. Like screwing up or like knowing I can screw up in front of a large group of people, like that's pretty nerve wracking. But it's like in the moment that you do fuck up, it's like, oh shit, how embarrassing. Then your forehead starts sweating and then you get a little red. And it's like, well, you know, that wasn't so bad.
I brought this up in the solo episode that I did on perfectionism, and I hadn't really had a chance to talk to you about this, but it kind of goes along with what we were just talking about a second ago. How comfortable are you with others seeing your like work process? For instance, you know, like if there's a project you need to do, is it better, like, are you more comfortable to take that project away to where you can work on it by yourself and then bring back a finished product, or just having the whole process of you working on it in front of someone? Are you comfortable with that? Or like, for me, it's like, it's really uncomfortable for me to show my process. It's like, I don't know why, but it's like, I feel so much better when my creative process or whatever it is a mystery that I get to then like bring them back a final product and go like, here you are. Like, you didn't get to see how it was made, but here it is. Like,
oh, I don't care at all. I mean, like being an IT guy, like half the time if people see me like in the process of figuring something out, they'll be like, oh, he just opened that black screen with the white letters where you type the things. He must be really smart.
Or a lot of times they see, oh, he just went to Google and Googled, how do I error code 417? Like,
yeah. And I'll be like, I'm about to show you every IT person's secret weapon. You're ready? And then I just go to google.com. Because for me, I don't want anybody to have magic. I want everyone to know exactly what we do. And I don't want the other smoke and mirrors IT guys, IT people, because it's not just males that do IT. But I don't want the other like smoke and mirrors IT people to have the opportunity to put up the smoke and the mirrors. Like I actually prefer for people to see it, because in some situations, sometimes it's actually immensely more complicated than they realize.
Like
what needs to be done, and I kind of want people to see that, but I don't really have a desire for it to seem like magic. I don't have a desire for people to be in awe of like something being done, and I also don't feel the need to some people don't like to what I'm trying to say here, like give away their secrets. But I prefer for everybody to know that there is no secret, that it's pretty simple.
See, for me, it's almost the opposite though. It's not that I like it's so sad, because it's such an anxiety thing, but it's like I feel like I'm nervous that I'm not doing it the most optimal way or the correct way. Like for instance, okay, let's say it's an IT thing. I've got to fix something on someone's, you know, and they're standing over my shoulder and they see that I bring up Google Chrome and I type in www.google.com to search something rather than just searching it in the text. You know what I mean? Like it's like little shit like that where I feel like I'm doing something stupid, where it's like I would much rather make all those mistakes in quiet by myself than let someone see. Like I don't know, like it's just the anxiety shit of like thinking my work process is not ideal. So it's like, oh no, I need to hide all these little mistakes that I make. Like,
there are times where I'll be like fucking with like typing something real simple in, like trying to remember how like to flush the DNS cache from like the command line, and I'll like fuck it up or like type something wrong, or that's not even a command that I rarely use. Like what's disk part? I use disk part sometimes, and I use it so infrequently that I forget some of the stuff. It's like if someone happens to walk in like while I'm messing with it and like I type something in wrong or whatever, or I forget a switch, or I have to hit like the question mark to actually look at the switches for the command.
Yeah, just some little syntax error or something.
Like, yeah, or if I'm at someone's desk, I'm like, hold on, I can't remember this command quite right. So then I'll just like look it up. But the thing is they don't understand anyway.
True. Yeah.
it's still magic to them because they see a bunch of stuff, then they see what I'm doing after I look at the search results, and it's like, I don't understand any of what you're doing. It's like
True.
it's
Yeah.
actually really simple. But I mean, I fight the whole when people like act like if you do IT support you're really smart. We're not.
Yeah.
Most of us are pretty dumb, and I don't like and I mean I'll even say to people jokingly like, sorry, I don't know what I'm doing. Or there's times where I'll be like, this might not work.
Here goes nothing.
Yeah, it's like, well, we'll try it and see if it happens. Or I'll be like, I have a distinct feeling that this is not going to work, but we're going to try it anyway. And for me, it's like, I don't know. I'm very comfortable with that. I think that maybe earlier in my career when I was like a little more insecure about my skill set and I hadn't learned as much, I wanted people to think that I was like some master. But the longer I do this for a living, like the less uncomfortable I am with oh my god, I just lost my train of thought.
Did chat distract you?
The more comfortable I am with doing it, the less I feel the need to like convince people it's magic.
Yeah.
And I mean I'll tell people when I don't know. Because that's important. Or even tell them, like they'll read me some, like I told you, like a blue screen, like the old school ones before they had like the little frowny face on Windows 10.
Yeah, yeah.
Or it's 0x0000:0. I was like, can you just read me the last two characters? The rest of that's Greek to me too.
Yeah, that's all I need.
And they'll be like, oh. So yeah. I don't know what any of that shit means. But when you give me the last two, I can Google that.
Yep. Yep. That's Googleable.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've tried to like consciously start doing that in my job where like for a long time when someone would bring me something, more like 90% of the time what I would do would, I'd let them like put it on my desk and it's like, okay, I will knock this out and I'll get right back to you in a few minutes. And that way I could like do it in privacy and then bring them the completed whatever I needed to fix and be like, okay, here's how I fixed it. Here, go on, do your job. But I've started now, whatever they do, because whatever they do is a mystery to me. But no, I've started doing like now when someone brings me something, it's like I'll let them sit at my desk and it's like, all right, let's knock this out right now. And it's like I will fix whatever it is in front of them and like go through that nervous moment of them seeing my process. And it really was like because I realized I was uncomfortable with it. And it was just like, okay, well, there's a reason why I'm uncomfortable with this. I don't think that reason is real. I don't for lack of a better term, it's like I don't feel like there's any my brain isn't actually trying to protect me from anything in this situation. It's trying to protect me from the perception that there's some sort of danger here that there's really not. So in that situation, it's like, okay, this is one of those moments where I need to step outside of my comfort zone because I feel like there's nothing but growth opportunity here.
Agreed. And it's kind of like the solo episode you did on perfectionism. A lot of it is, you said that when you look at somebody that's doing something difficult, that you don't get to see all the effort that went into it. Like, you see the big like, IFBB professional bodybuilder on stage flexing and all the lights are on them and everyone's cheering. And then like, they get the trophy and all this stuff that you don't see, like the twice a day that they work out 6 days a week and all the food they have to eat.
Just the meal prepping.
Yeah. It's crazy that like they have to spend like 8 hours on a Sunday to make enough food to last them the next week.
The 9 months of zero breaking their diet at all.
Yeah. And like the fact that they get super, super dehydrated right before they go to the contest, like all the terrible shit that happens, that I think that it's good for people to see the process of what it is that you're doing, because then they realize it's not just some walk in the park.
Yeah, exactly.
Not some like super easy thing. Because I even had somebody, I think they asked me something about like they needed network connectivity on one like network jack, and they asked me like, what's so hard about that? I was like, may I show you?
Yeah.
And they're like, sure. Okay, come with me. So it's like, what's all them blinky lights mean? It's like,
you like took them into the switch room or what?
Yeah, I took them in there and I was like, so number one, I was like, I need to grab this, and I grabbed my toner, and I was like, there's no label on that jack, so I don't know which one of these it corresponds to. So we went upstairs, I plugged it in. So this is going to send an electrical signal to wherever this goes, and then I like beep, 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 like there it is.
Yep.
So that this has to get plugged into here, and all these blinky lights down here, them's the network. Them switches is the network. This is that magical thing. And I'm like, it's difficult because I didn't know where the hell the damn thing went.
Yep.
But luckily, I have tools to show me where it goes.
Yep.
And now that we found it, this is the easy part. But people will ask me questions or they'll give me shit about something, and I'll be like, here, would you like to see? And then it's like, yeah.
Dude, speaking of, can I ask you a quick IT question?
You're kidding.
No, like not like advice or anything, but I just wanted to know if this ever happened to you. I had a Cat 5 Ethernet cable at work that it no longer carried the power to the phone, but it connected correctly. Is there like is one wire or one pair of wires responsible for the power within a Cat 5 cable that could have had a short and the rest of the pairs were correctly working?
So you would need a switch with power over Ethernet, PoE. And to be quite honest with you, I don't know if it's specific pairs that are powering it or if it's all of them. But I would guess, since the Cat 5e, well, actually all category cabling for networks, all the twisted pair cabling is low voltage. I would suspect that one pair wouldn't be able to support enough current.
See, that's what I thought too. Yeah.
So I don't actually know the answer to the question, but so you were able to like plug it into a computer and there was connectivity there?
Well, it was for a VoIP phone. And it's so like the phone, when plugged in, there was connectivity, but it required the power adapter of the phone to also be connected to the wall, which it should just be like every other person has the same phone and it's all just pulling the PoE, like you're saying, and powering the phone that way. And whenever we switched the cable, it was fine. So it was like this cable was actually working for connectivity, but not working for PoE, which I thought was really strange.
Well, how did you know that it had connectivity if the phone wouldn't turn on?
Well, no, because like I said, they also had their power adapter. It would only work when the phone's power adapter was also plugged in.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, I thought that was strange.
That's a weird one.
But yeah. Okay. Anyway, so yeah, back to but so when they brought me that problem, it really took me out of my comfort zone because I couldn't understand what was going on with. I'm trying to get us back on topic. Sorry. But yeah. So the
we got way off topic, didn't we?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I was trying to like dig back to what we were just talking about. And like I looked at chat for help, and that didn't help. Fuck. We were talking about like people seeing your process was the last part that I really remembered, and like how I've actually been trying to specifically make myself do things at work in front of people to take myself out of that comfort zone. I think it's been a good idea. Yeah, so what other did you have any other topics that were
I'm trying to think if I got a couple of things written down. Hold on, I had a text file open that I was reading off of.
Oh, gotcha.
So I think we already kind of we've actually talked about this, and we can kind of maybe come back to the because I wanted to talk about
I didn't know Arzo was a network technician.
That's cool. Yeah, I'm like a jack of all trades IT guy, so that means I suck at everything. Seriously, like you can't be awesome at anything if you have to be good at. You can't be awesome at anything if you have to be kind of good at everything.
And I'm like a pseudo IT guy. I do the easiest of the easy IT stuff. The stuff that I didn't even think was covered by IT.
What's summa cum laude mean?
Do you usually come
kidding.
Quiet?
Oh God. Sorry, I totally just derailed us by saying summa cum laude wrong. I don't remember what that means. I heard a bunch when my sisters graduated university. I went to community college, so
I know there are different levels of graduating top percentage of your class, and I don't know. Yeah, I guess summa cum laude is the highest, and then there's cum laude and There's like 2 or 3 different distinctions that all mean top X% basically.
Oh. For the record, if you're like watching on YouTube or any of our other mediums, I was just addressing someone talking about their degree in chat on the networking stuff with the summa cum laude, which apparently means with highest distinction. So I kind of want to get back to the comment that Arzo made about speaking to religious people. I'm assuming you mean Christians, since this is the West. That's usually who we meet.
Well, Arzo is in a different part of the world, but it is still the West.
Arzo's West. He's a Westerner.
Yeah, it's UK. UK is still West. So, yeah, correct.
You know, compared to India, he's a Westerner. Russia, Westerner. There's no space in most religions for homosexuality. That eventually made you an agnostic atheist, meaning an agnostic that leans toward the atheism side, if I'm not mistaken. So I was actually want to talk about religious beliefs as being something that people tend to be uncomfortable with, or people with differing ones.
Yeah. I was about to say, because most people are like comfortable with their own religious beliefs. It's like other people's religious beliefs you're uncomfortable with normally, right?
Yeah. So it's like when people that are uncomfortable with asking questions about beliefs, I think that that's something that people really need to kind of entertain. That I think that when people refuse, someone that was born with a specific religious background, like refuses to have conversations about, or refuses to answer questions, or doesn't like listen to or read someone else's beliefs, like the fact that I like have read, well, sorry, I think you technically have to call it the message of the Quran if it's not in Arabic.
Gotcha.
Like, I don't think you can call it, or maybe it's called that no matter what. But the book that I have, like, it's an English translation of it. And I have a friend who's like a Christian, like, she used to be like a Pentecostal. So, you know, those are the ones that, you know, roll around and speak gibberish.
I was gonna say, those are the snake people, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Not always. I think some sects of people that call themselves Pentecostals, that they do the thing with the snakes and stuff. That's a very extreme kind of thing.
Gotcha.
Most Pentecostals just speak gibberish and convulse. But
which is so far less extreme.
Yeah, so she's like way out there. Yeah, it's, you know, it's not as crazy as like, hello, Mr. Snake.
Yeah.
Let me kiss you on the head for my faith in the Lord. So let's maybe not do that, because, you know, the God you're talking about also gave you a brain. Maybe use it. So it's like, I'll tell my friend, I'll tell her like things about like things that are in the Quran, or things that I've never read any hadith, but I've talked to a few Muslims about different like hadith, like teachings and things like that.
Okay.
And, like, she is like so out there about it. Like, if I say anything about it, that she's like so uncomfortable with me speaking of it at all, that I'm like, dude, like, what the fuck? Like, how can you know that what you believe is the truth if you don't know what other people believe? Like, how can you determine that this is more true than the other things?
Well, that's kind of like you're kind of told that, right? Like, I don't know if it's that person's fault, but it's like, I think
it's like the Ken Ham and the Bill Nye debate. Like, nothing you can tell me will change my mind. This book is true.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and even like I just mean even beyond that, just like the way our media works, where it's like we're kind of like right now, no matter which side you get your news from, we're kind of just told that it's like, all right, well, terrorism is bad, and that means they're Islamic, so Islam is bad. You know, like there's kind of this narrative that's kind of pushed that it's like, you kind of, you know, you hear that someone's Muslim and it's like, oh, well, hold on, what is the percent chance that means they're a radical terrorist? Like, when in reality, I don't know if that's a question that should even be asked at that, like,
yeah, that's true. I mean, plus, like, all the ones that you meet in the United States, or at least the ones that I talk to, or at least like in our interactions, are pretty nice to me. I mean, they don't seem like assholes, but I mean, you know, but yeah, I guess that, you know, that might, in that particular way, that might be something that's like, oh no, that's bad. But like, if I talk about like stories that, you know, like from like Hinduism, some of the few ones that I know, which is very few, like, you know, like things that people just don't understand because there's culturally like differences too. Like the story of Kali is like the there's some demon that like I can't remember who it is, but he's one of the deities is fighting this demon, and every time the demon is cut, its blood turns into another one of him. So there's like multiple demons. It's kind of like a hydra, but like instead of cutting off the one head and two grow back, it's like you shed blood and the blood grows into another demon, and it's all the same.
Sounds like a badass boss in a video game.
So Kali, like Mahakali is something that she's called. Like she, like one of her names is like the Black Mother. Okay. Like she rips the demon in half and drinks all of his blood. So it's like, turn yourself into something else now, bitch. I drank your blood. Like, no more of you. And then, like, she basically goes nuts and, like, destroys everything. Mm-hmm. And, like, I don't know if it's Vishnu or who it is, but, like, she's one of the deities is, like, her husband, and she, like, tramples him to death. Like, in the midst of, like, all the insanity. Mm-hmm. But if you talk to that myth about people that, like, are unaware of the fact that it's like just a story, and then there's other ideas, like cultural ideas that are Indian people are more familiar with, or people in that part of the world are more familiar with, that there's no reason to be that uncomfortable with it. Mm-hmm. Some people say really like Ganesh is the one that has the head of an elephant.
Yeah,
like I've heard people say like, that thing looks like a demon. I'm like,
what does that mean?
It just looks like an elephant, dude, with 4 arms.
Yeah, what is that like?
Like, what does that even mean? And it's like, that's something that like you don't see all over like some Hindu terrorists today did some Hindu act of extreme Hindu terror. Like, and even that's something that like, people can be like really uncomfortable with. It's like, if you're that insecure about like what you believe, then why would you believe it? And I think that, but the other problem with that is that like, I'm talking about this from the perspective of someone who's chiefly pretty rational most of the time about most stuff.
Okay.
So perhaps maybe there's no way for individuals who have a specific religious belief to put themselves, in an uncomfortable situation and talk about other beliefs, because
possibly
many times if you ask why, there's no answer.
Well, yeah, it's like
because they don't think that way. Many people don't think that way.
Well, yeah. What I was about to say, like, this feels like an insult, and I don't mean it that way. I mean this as nicely as possible, but it's to have a religious belief more often than not means you're having to give up rational thought in at least one area of thought, right? Like you're accepting something as
nature
truth.
Kind of removes itself from that.
Exactly. So it's like you can't. More often than not, you can't rationally defend a religious belief. It has to boil down to just a idea of faith. It's like, oh, well, I believe this because I believe it. And you like there is no rational conversation that can be had about that, right? Like, or what is like the best, what is the most rational way that a person can defend their religious belief that they know is irrational?
Wait, the most rational, irrational way?
Basically, yeah. Like, because I mean, like,
I mean, I can give you one argument with some holes in it.
What would be, in my
all of them have holes in them?
In your opinion, if you were speaking to someone who had a very strong religious belief, you consider yourself a very rational person, what is the most impressive answer they could give you to rationally defend their religious belief? That you would say like, okay, I accept that.
Like based on the status quo, like on the average answer, I'd be impressed with something.
Okay. Yeah, true. Yeah.
Something that actually answered the question why, I'd be impressed with that. Like that would be enough for me. Like even if it's not airtight, something. I mean, you can make a reasonable like deductive argument for deism.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Like the common argument is that if it's not a very airtight analogy, but you and I are walking down the beach. We're just holding hands, walking down the beach, you and me.
Sounds nice.
It's a sunset on the right. We're just going on down there.
And all of a sudden there's one pair of footsteps, and it's because I carried you the whole time.
I read that on a Christian greeting card one time. Are you Jesus?
I am.
But like if we're walking down and we see some rocks, and those rocks are in a formation, several rocks, that spells your name.
Okay.
Or better yet, my name.
Yeah, yours is harder.
Distance. Yeah. Longer name. So we see that. we would not assume that the stones just happen to wash up on the shore and spell my name.
I would. No, I would not.
You would not think that.
No, I would not.
We would not think that. Yeah. So we would have to deduce that somebody put them there.
Yeah.
So there's some people will make the sort of argument that there's the complexity with which things seem to function, that we're a system of organs that function harmoniously in a way that is beneficial, that we have life, that the thing that we breathe is a byproduct of their respiration, and the thing that they breathe is a byproduct of our respiration. That you can look at the bone structure of like my hand or your hand. You could look at a penguin's flipper bone structure. You could look at a bear's paw, and you would see that there's analogous bones in each of them, that people would say, like, another shitty analogy, but 1997 Dodge. They all have the same grill.
Yeah.
And roughly the same formation in the front in different proportions, because they were made by the same company. So it's like, it's the idea that the same designer created all of them. So they recycled the ideas for, the bones to essentially be reused in different proportions. And it's like that for like many, many animals. Of course, you can also on the other side say that the reason why they look similar is because we evolved from the same ancestor. But there's a lot of ways where if you look at the complexity of which things appear, that it is really crazy. I'm not saying it's impossible, but it's crazy that it all just sort of happened by physics doing what physics does, like by nature behaving the way that it does. So like that's one argument for deism. Now to get specifically to whatever, Allah, Brahma,
Yahweh.
Yahweh, yeah. To get specifically to each of those, there's a lot more that's required, and I don't know that you can get all the way there with a deductive argument.
Okay, yeah.
Without having to make some assumptions. But I mean, I was actually talking to some friends about, how many people, like one of my friends at work, asked me how many people that are that have a religious belief that you've talked to have not given you a reason why. And I sat there and I thought to myself,
most.
I thought really hard, and I tried to pick out every conversation I had, and I was like, 100%.
Yeah.
Have not given me a reason why. So that's, like I said, any reason would be good for me.
In my mind, honestly, like, it's kind of funny. It goes back to a moment of, funny enough, religious. But this is the experience I've had with most people when talking about religious belief with someone who has a religious belief. There was a scene in Religulous where do you remember the chapel that was in the back of a 18-wheel trucker for the truckers? It was like actually like at a truck stop.
Yeah. How do you know it's how do you know this isn't false or that's not a lie? And the guy just goes, it can't be.
Well, no. The question was like I forget what I said that sentence completely wrong, because it wasn't the question, it was the guy's answer. I forget what, like Bill Maher just asked an innocent question that was just, like, hey, why do you believe this or why that? And the guy's answer was like, whatever you guys are doing here, when you start questioning my God, there's going to be problems. And it's like, that to me is like so fucking ridiculous. Is there anything to you that is not worth questioning? To me, the answer is obviously no. Like anything in my life, like is worth discussing or questioning. There's nothing that I'm just going to accept as blind truth and never think about or question.
Yeah, and same here. I mean, there's very few things that for me, like I'll just accept it like at face value. I mean, even if it's like understanding something, I won't like I'll try to understand something as much as I possibly can, within reason, like, with my own mental faculties. But yeah.
But I think like what it boils down to, like for that guy, what he was experiencing at that moment was just discomfort. Realizing that it's like your religious belief is not as grounded and written in stone as you felt that it was. And when someone starts to ask a question that you don't have a 100% answer for, the best way is like, all right, get them to stop this line of questionings rather than actually think about it and experience this discomfort.
Yeah. And that's and that kind of goes back to the whole like not tying yourself up with
Yep.
your identity with the things that you believe to be true. And I understand that that type of worldview, it really is your identity, that
Yeah.
it really is kind of part of who people are. But it's like,
Does it have to be though? I guess like maybe that's like a
no,
part of
it
the.
really does. It does. Like that type of belief, if it's not part of your identity, then you don't really believe it.
Okay.
Because if you take it seriously, which I mean, very few people do. If you take it really, really seriously, like that is like who you are. Like you are this thing, and that is not just a belief. Like I believe in Christianity. No, it's I am a Christian. But
yeah,
like,
it becomes a whole way
means,
of life, right?
yeah, what that means, I don't really know.
That's interesting then, because that seems like very limiting in one regard. I mean, I know that it like I've never had the luxury of experiencing having a belief system like that while being an adult. You know what I mean? Like the only time I was ever Christian was as a young child, that like I was Christian because my parents were. You know what I mean? Like I never believed it on my own accord. So I haven't had that experience and to know what that would be like. But it's like looking at it from the outside, it seems very limiting. It seems like it's almost strictly like, all right, well, shit, now I've got to tick a lot of boxes and say like, okay, I believe this, and now I am this, and I need to act in this certain way. Simply, I don't know.
But it's because for me, I think it has to be like give reasons for the belief in the thing before considering yourself that thing.
Yeah.
But you know, it's like that. But I think that the degree of discomfort you have about a belief and someone questioning it is a pretty clear indication that perhaps you should examine your reason for that belief. Oh yeah, Arzo, that's like I said, whatever argument I offered was going to have holes in it. So like the thing is that a lot of people don't even try. So it's like doesn't really make a lot of sense, because there's like, you know, like 1 billion to the, you know, to the 5 trillionth power stars in the universe. I don't know. I'm just making up numbers. And that they don't seem to have a discernible purpose, and something that has, a creator must have a purpose, and that a watch is made to tell time. So what does the universe do? You know, there's also the God of the gaps argument that like, if you can't explain it, that must be God. I mean, there's all kinds of really tired ones, but there's a massive gap in reason where it's like, seems like it was on purpose, therefore God.
Yeah. The one that I kind of like is like, so we do understand that at a singularity, every understanding we have of the laws of physics breaks down. So there's almost like a boundary that our actual understanding of science can't really explain beyond, and that would be like the Big Bang moment, to where it's like anything before that, the ideas of science don't really have a realm to talk about or explore. So it's like I've heard people talk about that, where it's like, you know, I believe science up to this point, and it's like then it can't really go beyond that, and that's where I have, you know, theological beliefs or whatever. And it's like that I can kind of understand where they're coming from. It's like, as long as you're not disregarding multiple branches of science and saying they're wrong because it conflicts with your beliefs, that like that's where like the religious beliefs really start to irritate me. When someone tells me the earth's 6,000 years old because they added up the ages in the Bible, it's like, all right, well, no, like that's I
mean, that doesn't really work, I don't think. But it's also like, but hey, at least that person's trying to give you some kind of idea of something. At least they're at least feeling the discomfort of having to explain something that's damn near impossible to explain. But, you know, one thing I'd like to touch on that I think is really important is that I've talked about the guy before. He's a dude that did like 50 Ironman triathlons in 50 days in 50 states.
Yeah.
Calls himself the Iron Cowboy. There's a documentary on Netflix. I've talked about him before. I've talked about this exact thing before.
That documentary was really good, by the way. I watched that on your recommendation.
You liked it?
Yeah, it's very much enjoyed
like the scene where like on day 3 he's like so exhausted he's shaking and he can't eat. Like that's nuts.
Yeah. Seeing people like push their bodies to the actual limit like that is just crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, it's absolutely insane. But there's a scene where he's talking to his mom, and she, I think, so at the end of the events, I think that they did like a little 5K where you could run the last 5 kilometers with him.
Mm-hmm.
And his mom, I think she did like, and she's not like in amazingly good shape either. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and she's old. So I think she did like 3 or 4 of those in the row, like the last few days.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah.
And he was talking to her about like, she just was like, oh, this isn't nothing. It's nothing compared to what you're doing. And you know, what you're doing is really hard. And I mean, this is nothing. And he is like, well, what's hard for you is hard for you.
Mm-hmm.
And what's hard for me is hard for me. So as long as what you're doing is difficult for you, then that's good, and do that. So it's the idea that I don't want anyone that's listening to get this idea that just because you and I might be comfortable doing some things that they're not, or that we might be okay with stepping out of our comfort zone to some degree, we might be further along than another individual is.
Mm-hmm.
And whatever is uncomfortable for you is uncomfortable for you. Whatever's uncomfortable for me is uncomfortable for me. Like, for instance, you know, you might be weirded out going and talking to a dozen strangers. I'm fine with that.
Mm-hmm.
But you asked me to talk about my feelings. Well,
exactly. Yeah.
You know, it's like, I can do it. I can, but I'm going to be really uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, and other people might be completely fine with that. But you put them in a room with a dozen people and they're just like, oh shit, my palms are sweaty.
Mom's spaghetti. Yep. No, see, that's interesting. For me, it's like it's almost like the other way around. The most comfortable thing I could talk about with like a dozen strangers would be my feelings. That would be like that would be the most comfortable thing for some reason. I don't know why.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know why. Yeah, that would probably be the most comfortable conversation I could have. Is just like being 100% honest about how it makes me nervous and just going from there. Yeah.
Well, as long as it's uncomfortable for me.
So hold on. What did Arza just say? So I don't run into this over here, but I hear on stuff like Reddit about Christians in America who just don't seem to understand what atheism is. Like, they seem to think it's comparable to some form of Satanism. Is that a thing beyond just the extremists? Is it more mainstream to well, yeah, I would say that's a hard question to answer because, again, like, I've never really been Christian in my adult life, but there seems to be a mentality in parts of the US, specifically like the South and maybe like the Midwest, like a lot of the red areas, I guess you would say. But there seems to be a mentality that, like, if you're not Christian, you basically are evil. Specifically aimed at atheism, I would say that they're, you know, the mind state that I'm talking about, right?
Do I understand that mind state?
Yes.
Yeah, but it's
do you think that, like, that type of person I'm talking about is an atheist worse than a Muslim to them?
I mean, to that individual?
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. Like, is it just like not Christian equals bad, or is atheism really its own brand of evil?
A lot of the time, and this kind of goes back to that whole comfort zone thing. Like, a lot of the time, you're talking to an individual that hasn't stepped out of that. And like, I work, one of the offices I work in is in a rather small town, about 45 minutes from where I live.
Mm-hmm.
And the only thing that makes it not the middle of nowhere is that the highway's next to it.
Okay.
And there was someone that worked there that, you know, at the time I finally felt comfortable coming out of the closet. I came out as an atheist, and I let them all know. And I didn't pretend like I was doing anything on Sunday other than sipping coffee and maybe riding a bicycle. And I was told by one of them, like, I've never met an atheist before. Well, we don't sacrifice cats to the devil.
Yeah.
Because she was astounded at the fact it's like, I like you. Like, oh, I'm astounded that you like me too. But but it's like, I think that a lot of it is just it's a lack of exposure. It's a lack of leaving your comfort zone. It's a lack of talking to individuals that think differently and believe things that are differently, or believe things that are different. I think that's where a lot of that comes from. And, you know, like, I've dabbled in Christianity. I've mentioned this before. Like I went to a church. I spoke
Yeah.
at that church a couple times. I played bass in
You
the church's
slap at the
band.
bass. Yep.
And nope, I wasn't allowed. They told me I was too groovy on a few occasions.
Hold on. Is it so slapping the bass is too much for Jesus? Like Jesus requires a pick?
Oh no, I mean I could. I
okay.
mean I use my fingers to pick, but I mean
okay.
I'm not gonna play a bass with a pick.
So Jesus is okay with finger style, just not slap.
Yeah, finger style, but no slap.
Okay.
So like I would yeah, it's just, well, it didn't work with the music. I'm not good enough to play in a church that plays gospel music. Their bassists are really good.
I thought it was like, okay, I missed it. I thought it was actually a thing that it was like, no, hold on, that is too funky. Jesus would not approve. Let's take it back.
More like it just doesn't fit the music.
Gotcha. Okay,
like,
never mind.
Nobody can close their eyes and wave their arms around and act like their imaginary friend loves them to this.
Gotcha.
So like it's the thing is that I talked to a lot of people there that like had no understanding of many other things.
Yeah.
And they were like, so explain atheism to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, it means you don't believe there's a God at all.
Yeah.
But why not? Just look around. Look at all this.
I love explaining
one time
that.
I prayed and this lady got cured of cancer. I'm like, really? I've heard that story like 130 times. And no one has shown me any like kind of imaging to give me proof of this thing.
Yeah.
Why do you believe so? Just because people said it. But it's the same thing. It's just like that they're like missing exposure to something else.
Well, I think it's a great way of saying it. I think it was even in Religulous where he says it, but it's just like a lot of people don't think about it this way. But if you're religious, you are already atheist to 99.9% of the gods out there. Like people never think about the fact that like they are atheists to most of the gods out there. There's just one extra one that the atheists don't believe in that you do. And it's like think about it that way. I think is always like kind of a mind opening experience.
And one, I even heard somebody. I went to a friend's church, and someone in like the group that they were in, they'd read some pages from a Bible section, and did like a little study on it and talked about things. And at one point, one of the people was like, "I think atheists just need to understand that God loves them." And I was like, you have to convince the atheists that there's a God to love them first.
Exactly. Yeah.
And they was just like, what?
Yeah.
Like it blew all their minds. They're like, oh, I didn't even think about that. Like, well, I mean, an atheist, it means that they don't believe in one. So you got to convince them that there is one first for them to believe that one loves them.
But they've never considered that. Like I've heard that same thing explained to me where to this person, an atheist wasn't someone that didn't believe in God. It was someone that denied the existence of God. And it's like, well, hold on. No, like you're coming at it from a mindset of like, here's this obvious thing that exists and is real. And here's another person denying it, rather than like, hold on, there is a possibility that I'm believing in this just out of belief. Like, yeah, I don't know. It's so strange to me. It is such a strange thing. But so in your opinion, you don't think that there is, there's something you don't think there's something specific about atheism that Christians demonize, that it's more just
well, I mean, there's a lot of things. It just depends like what kind of believer there are. I mean, some people are assholes, which means that some Christians are assholes. Some vegans are assholes. Some musicians are assholes because some people are assholes, like, some yodelers are assholes. Because
I don't know if I believe that one. I think all yodelers are brilliant, great people.
So if you meet one, introduce me, set me up on a blind date. But it's like I think that you're going to just meet people that are assholes sometimes. That's just like something that happens. And some people, there's all kinds of different ideas that like, oh, well, you just want to live in your shortfalls. You just want to, do whatever you want to do. You don't want to, live by these laws or by these rules, or you are evil, or you are going to hell, or you will understand one day, or you're just too blind to see, or you haven't asked the right questions, or you just need to pray in the right way, or ask God to come find you one day. Like, I will pray for you. There's all kinds of different responses that you get from people, and it just depends on the person. And generalizing what Christians say or think doesn't make any sense because there's so many different kinds.
True. Yeah. True. Yeah.
And they believe so many different things and so many ideas, and denominations fight about theology and interpretation all the time still.
True. Yeah.
So they're such a diverse group of people, especially now. Like you've got like the fire and brimstone, you've got the like there's all kinds. There's like primitive Baptist. Have you ever heard of that?
No. What makes someone a primitive Baptist? I've never heard of that.
I don't remember. Look it up. There's like one or two things I think that separate them from the rest.
Huh.
And then there's Methodists, and there's
when did that divide happen? Was that like a recent change, or
no? Like primitive Baptists have been around for a long time, probably like 100 or some years.
Huh, okay.
I mean, they've been around for quite a while, but I think that they have some idea of like there's some sort of like specific like old school value that you're supposed to go back to. That's where the prime part of primitive, also called hard shell Baptist.
Interesting.
Or old school Baptist. They're from the early 19th century, so just freshly pretty close to 100 years now.
Yeah.
But there's all kinds of like denominations, and like there's all kinds of different kinds of people that are going to believe in different things. And some atheists are pretty chill, and others of us are like militant dickheads. Some of us are like okay with people having different beliefs, and some of us are bigots. Because you don't have to be religious to be a bigot.
Yeah.
So in the same way that, and I mean, I would consider myself an agnostic because the only sensible thing is that, well, because of the fact that this thing removes itself from rational judgment, I don't really know.
Well, have you ever heard of the quadrant idea?
Like a religion talk, I guess, maybe more than a comfort zone talk.
Yeah.
But a lot of this just has to do with the fact that, like, I think if you talk to more religious people, that you'll get a broader understanding. But there are some general things. Well, especially like in England, I think that it's a smaller piece of land, so there's not like really as many people. Dude, we just got raided. That's cool.
Oh, we did. Hey, Post Balone, thank you for the raid. I appreciate that. Welcome, guys. Cool. We are just wrapping up our weekly podcast. We do mainly about self-improvement. This week we are talking about our comfort zone. And we've kind of, at the end here, we kind of got steered to a conversation about stepping out of your comfort zone as far as religious belief goes, which is kind of an interesting topic. I think you're spot on, though, with the identity aspect of the belief, where like we're talking about with a religious belief, that becomes a very core part of what someone identifies themselves as. And talking about or questioning that belief becomes very, very uncomfortable. And I can understand why people don't want to step out of that comfort zone with that. I still don't think it's right. I don't want to I'm not trying to be an apologist on that behalf, but I understand at least why it's difficult for people.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, there's ways that we can understand it, but that doesn't necessarily mean that we condone staying inside that box. And the one thing that I've said a lot of the time is that there's something that, it's typically the believers, Christians call it the Great Commission. It's the section of, I do not remember where it is, but it says that you're supposed to go out unto the nations and make them disciples, baptizing them in the name of the Lord or whatever. But I tell a lot of people, like, how can you go out into those nations and do those things if you don't know anything about those people? That's my big push for most people that are Christians, is I tell them, like, how do you expect to go out anywhere? How do you expect to go someplace that you don't know to try to fulfill this commission you've been commanded to do in your manual, your book, if you're not willing to go someplace that you're uncomfortable with? Go meet people that you don't know.
Yeah. Well, if you're going out,
things that
exactly, because if you're going out into their community, if you're willing to listen to anything at all, you're going to learn something about them. Unless you're only there to talk, it's like if you're there to just exist and be a part of that community, you're going to learn something. Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. I do think that is one area where a lot of people, I hate talking about this because it's like, normally on the podcast, I like to talk about things that I myself also need to work on. And it's like with this, it's like, I feel like I'm pointing fingers because I'm not a religious person. So it's not like, I can't say that's something we all need to work on, but it's like, I do feel like from the outside looking in, I feel like many religious people should or ideally would want to step out of that comfort zone some. And I feel like that could help with a lot of misunderstandings, like we just talked about, the misunderstandings between Christians and atheists in specifically in America and the UK.
Agreed. 100% agreed. So you got final thoughts on the whole thing generally?
Well, I wish I would have listened back to what my final thoughts were last episode, because I don't want to just like repeat the same shit. But I've realized in myself that it is way too easy to find your comfort zone and dwell in it. You don't have a lot of incentive to step out of it unless you challenge yourself. No one else is going to really do that for you. And recognizing when you're becoming too comfortable it's actually kind of easy, but it's tough to motivate yourself to want to change that. And I think that's the big thing that we all should do is recognizing when our life is maybe a little too comfortable and pushing our boundaries a little bit. It's only going to make you grow. What about you, Distance? What you got?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I had to mute my microphone. I hacked my guts out.
I saw that.
Yeah, I'm actually a bit under the weather, but I've all the talking's kind of like made the throat kind of scratchy. Pardon me.
Jeez.
Oh, that wasn't too loud. So, I have a quote from the book. Excuse me, my brains have stepped out. It's by Pandora Poikilos. I think I just butchered the last name.
The book's name is called
whatever.
Excuse Me, My Brains Have Stepped Out?
Yep.
That's cool. Okay.
Yep. So in it says, we are so accustomed to the comforts of I cannot, I do not want to, and it is too difficult that we forget to realize when we stop doing things for ourselves and expect others to dance around us, we are not achieving greatness. We have made ourselves weak.
Yep. I like that. I mean, that is what comfort will do. It's comfortable there, but it's not going to cause you any growth, and it's only going to make you weak.
Weak of all the things.
Exactly.
Speaking of which, have we decided that, because I know we were going to do the strong subject this week.
Yes.
Do we want to do strong next week? Because
that
quote led into that, not on purpose, I swear.
That's actually perfect. Yeah, let's do strong next week then. 1 week from today.
Cool.
Works for me.
Sorry, I kind of like screwed up the outro there.
It is all good. There is nothing you could do to screw up anything around here.
Be a good co-host and shut up when you're supposed to.
But with that being said, we have reached the end of another episode of the Metacast podcast. If you guys are watching this on YouTube and you've enjoyed the conversation, please hit that like button, subscribe to keep up to date, and comment below and let us know how you will be challenging yourself to step outside of your comfort zone. If you're interested in further taking part of the conversation or even joining us as a guest on a future episode, please join our Discord. The link is in the description down below. Don't forget to join us next week for another episode live Wednesday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on twitch.tv/TylerTV. Thank you all for listening, and I hope you have a great week.